A new day represents a gift, a miracle for us to all begin anew. If we felt we didn't get it right yesterday, today is the time to righten the wrongs of yesterday. The show is Weekend Deal, and I'm Elizabeth Amaya. I'd like to start with certain quotes of very great people. Albert Einstein said once, "Our defense is not in our armament, nor in science, nor in going on the ground. Our defense is in law and order." Donald Trump added, "There can be no prosperity without law and order." And I like the way Stephen Wonder, concluded. He says, "Law and order comes from having respect for one another." Now, law and order is the thrust of our discussion today. And very importantly, do you know that for every lawlessness you commit, I commit, we are offending someone somewhere? In Nigeria, we have lots of law, beautifully crafted, but at the end of the day, we always find out that enforcement is the issue. What is our problem? Some people will tell us or ask us, what is the black man's problem? I don't know if we have problem or peculiarities that makes us not to do the right things, or is it even happening in other places? How do they go about it? If you sit with us from now till 9 o'clock, you and I will be proffering answers with lots and lots of features and, of course, very intelligent people. I told you, law and order is a focus today, but without me adding more to it, let's join Francis as he puts us in the right mood for the conversation today.
Few days' time, Nigeria will mark our 62nd independence anniversary. It is important to find out how we have fared. For instance, what is the compliance level of Nigerians to law and order? The truth is that without orderliness, everything will be in chaos. Driving on the roads, flying in the air, navigating on the high sea all involve orderliness.
We have too many laws. We pass laws anyhow because we know we are not going to obey them. There's a general feeling that laws are made for the fools. Because if they say queue up here, you know that the people in authority are not going to do that. They will just go to the back and do. If they say apply for a job, go to the website. You know that people in authority are not going to the website. They are filling the job for themselves. So whatever they say you should do, you know that the leadership is not doing it. And Nigerians don't like to be fools. So it is difficult to tell a clerk in the public service to not collect bribe when he's one supervising construction sites for permanent secretary, carrying money for cement and all of that. And he knows that this man has like 20 houses.
Nigerians are bound to obey laws, but when there's impunity across board, so Nigerians also will flow along those lines. Let's say you are going to the US, you get to Washington. You have about 2,000 people on the queue. Nigerians will wait patiently. They will not complain. There is no complaint at all. But let them come to Murtala Mohammed International Airport and they are waiting. You have about 5 persons attending to them. The person that is maybe just coming in. What is happening here? This thing is not moving. We have to do that. And I say, do we have to continue to show that we are home where things don't work? Nigerians are the best law keepers outside of this country because they go to those areas where the laws are made and people are there. People are paid to ensure that they enforce those laws. But here, the laws are made. People are paid to enforce those laws, but they get extra payment for you breaking the law. They, in fact, encourage you. If you break the law, they say, "Oga, what do you have there? Let's just settle this matter. Let us not go there."
The blatant disregard for the due process of law being exhibited by all classes of people in our country is a cause for serious concern.
Whatever the government says, don't do. Just give them a second. It's the government itself that will start doing it. So you will see our leaders, they will tell you, don't patronize foreign goods, buy Nigeria, you will see the sticker. But in everything, they don't buy Nigeria. They don't obey the laws that they pass by themselves. The members of the National Assembly disobey National Assembly laws that they themselves passed.
This trend of lawlessness and disregard for law and order depicts the poverty of our values, the paucity of our thinking, and the depravity of our mentality. What role can the family play in changing this tide?
Bible says, teach a child the way it should grow so that it will not depart from it. So if you set laws in your home, for instance, you say, well, this house, everybody should come in at 9 o'clock so that we can lock the gate. And daddy is coming at 11 and at 12. And mommy says, daddy, why did you come? They say, shut up, who gave you mouth to ask me? The child is growing up like that to understand that you can actually break the law and shout at the other person who is supposed to help you enforce the law. Once you shout at the person, you get away with it. Or if the person begins to complain too much, the other day, daddy will now buy one sweet perfume for mommy. And mommy says, oh, daddy, I love you. And the matter ends there. So the child will grow up to know that if I break the law, I can give a gift to somebody and they will let me go.
If your child is trying to get an admission and you say, study, 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 stay up, study, and the child puts their feet inside cold water, drink coffee, do everything, and study. The other child who didn't study is going to get the admission anyway. So the next time they will tell you, no, daddy, forget it. My friend Busola or Andrews or Yunusa, the father went to see the people there. He has scored far more than her. She's in school now. Even your own child will be telling you, interpreting your own country to you. So that is where the problem lies. People know that you pay money to transfer from one place to another. Even policemen pay money for promotion.
The reason for the increased rate of compliance and obedience to the laws in developed countries compared to developing nations like ours is the efficacy of the law. The system is such that you can't evade the law. No matter how long it takes, the long arm of the law will eventually catch up with the criminal.
We have wonderful laws in this country. But the only problem we have is that those laws are made, we don't have sanctions, adequate sanctions that will deter people from committing those crimes. And I think this is going to be my 5th time or 6th time of saying that our lawmakers, our lawbreakers. Lawmakers are lawbreakers, lawkeepers are lawbreakers. So when you have that kind of a situation, you are very close to an anarchy where you have citizens who are supposed to follow the footsteps of the lawmakers and the lawkeepers, seeing that the lawmakers are not keeping the law, the lawkeepers are not keeping the law, and I'm supposed to keep the law. So there's always a middle point where you cannot maneuver and get away with those things.
The need to revitalize the judiciary and all components of our legal machinery becomes expedient in the face of this crisis.
Law should be like electricity. Whoever touches it will feel it. And that's how it should be. And your job is just to warn everybody. Please, I care for you, I like you, I want you around. Don't break these laws. Don't do any of these things. Because if you do, even though my heart is bleeding, I will fire you. And I will send you to prison. There's nothing anybody can do. And once that is there, Nigerians will change.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on law and order in Nigeria.
That was quite a loaded one, and now you see where we're heading to. We'll hit the conversations immediately, and I'm not an expert, even though I'm a very good citizen. I can hit my chest and say that I am, because I try to do the right things. I have an expert who will be guiding us on things we need to do to ensure that we keep sanity, which is law and order, maintain it and help our nation grow. And so I have him coming all the way from University of Ibadan and he is Professor Mohammed Yahaya Kuta, Professor of Agricultural Extension and Development Communication, and he is also expert in citizens engagement. I also know that at a point you were also the SSG to the Niger State government, right?
Thank you.
Okay, how was your journey down here?
It's a pleasure indeed.
It's our pleasure to have
you.
you, and I know that your passion
Yeah.
for this very
Great country
course, it's what led you all the way to this place.
Thank you.
Now, you saw what we just, transmitted.
That's right.
And you were making your comments and all that, especially when the woman mentioned anarchy. You want to share that with us?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I feel Nigerians, as I used to say in many opportunities I have, this is one of the greatest country on the surface of the planet.
Yes.
And if you don't appreciate that, some of us do. And our patriotism is not fake, it's internalized, because we have opportunities to migrate to other countries in search of greener pastures. But we are not interested. We are interested in shaping our nation. And I'm happy at every turn of our opportunities we make our impact. So I feel that the question that the comment of that lady was very clear, that the route to anarchy starts from the family, and many people don't understand that as parents, the way we bring up our children is the foundation to whatever happens later in life. Family is the bedrock. When parents conduct themselves, the children watch.
Definitely.
In fact, the children are the first role models, and that where you have a very well united, formidable family, the children are likely going to follow the pattern. But where you see a parent will be conducting business on phone and the children are watching because you want to escape somebody, you are making a call and you say to the person, no, I'm not around, I'm in Port Harcourt. And the children watch, they will think that is
That's a norm.
So they will not appreciate the fact that telling lies is part of the critical foundation of dishonesty and misconduct that people later on imbibe in life when they have opportunities. So in the same breath, I also have a question for the immediate community, to the family, where we are brothers keepers according to our doctrines, both in Islam and Christianity. Preach that you should take care of your brothers, your neighbors first and foremost. They are very critical. But today we wake up and that everybody is on his own, especially with the emergence of the social media. Somebody's in an accident, the first thing to do is to carry a camera and to start doing social media instead of going to rescue first and foremost. So there are a lot of foundations,
Or even call the essential
numbers that can rescue the
rescue.
situation.
Yes.
And I feel you now graduate to the bigger community, the larger society, and sadly, you talk about organizations. People talk about government. Who is government? We are the government. Every citizen is part of government. And that when our founding fathers, where I'm going to anarchy, is that our founding fathers were men of integrity personified. They were very committed to this country, and that was why when you look at the coat of arms, it says unity and faith, peace and progress. And that when you look at those words, is all encompassing since 1960. And if you look at the design of the coat of arms, it's talk about our rich endowment as a nation, from our soil, from our strength, and look at that, and you see the way over the years the key words that constitute our motto as a nation have been bastardized, and you can now see why our national anthems have become mere rhetorics for citation. Even the students don't even have connection.
A lot of us do not even know how to say it.
Not even say it. What's the connection? What's
And
the
when
point?
we say it, it's not coming from our
Our heart.
We just rattling over it.
I watch one video, maybe I don't know if you have seen it, Lizzie, about the Toby Amusan, who went
Yes.
to our school.
Oh, no.
And see young children with national flag.
Oh.
You know, I was moved.
Yes, I
You
had
know,
those goosebumps.
you know, so you can see, you know, the inspiration. Those children will not forget that forever.
Even when she had her victory and right there at the arena,
Yes.
Nigerian's national anthem was sung.
Yes. She was
in
crying.
her honor. She
was-
cried, and I forgot that I was actually watching a video. I started crying as well. You know, that's how it is. We're moving away from the home
yes.
and you know, bringing it to the larger society, like you said.
Yes.
The civil service holds a lot of people, you know, as workers, and every day, all of us, including me, we're complaining one thing or the other. I keep wondering, are we giving our best? You know, they say 8 hours is what we're supposed to do for 5 days. Do we even give the civil, you know, work as much as, you know, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week? I'll, you know, pause on your answer and quickly join Shike to give us a feature. When we come back, Prof, you'll be answering.
The civil service of any nation is one of the agents of development, which is dependent on its effectiveness and efficiency. The Nigerian civil service was established by the British in the colonial era and was fully absorbed into the system after Nigeria gained full independence in October 1960. Since then, various efforts have been made towards the reformation of the Nigerian civil service. Mr. Sylvester Onoja was a civil servant who spent most of his vibrant years as an administrator in the education sector. For him, during his active years in service, love for the nation was high above all consideration.
At the beginning, the civil service was the engine room of this government. And a lot of people, and this country was administered under the British, largely by civil servants. It is the dedication of this civil service and the fact that they were completely apolitical. They didn't participate in politics, but were implementing policies and directing politicians to make sure that the policies that was right for a particular situation or for a country or all that was there. Now, if we go back to the history of the civil service, of course it's been there before, but I want to relate it to Nigeria. The colonials who came here to be civil servants and all that, who worked, a lot of them were graduates of the top schools in the United Kingdom. They either went to Eton College, or they went to Oxford, or they went to Cambridge. Because at that time, the civil service, only the best can have access to civil service. I was fortunate to have taught in 2 schools that produced the best of the civil servants of this country. I taught in Bariwa College in 1967, 68, 69 as a student teacher. And I ended up as principal of King's College, Lagos. When you talk about this, the first set of civil servants in northern Nigeria, they were products of Bariwa College and Government College Ikefi. When you talk about the best of the civil servants Nigeria produced, they were products of King's College.
That was the experience of so many other civil servants then. The question is, why has the situation changed to the current lackluster attitude and untold corruption that currently permeate the system?
Today, we no longer have the best. A lot of things have happened. And the greatest damage that was done to the civil service was the military rule. And the worst sinner was the late Murtala Muhammad. That purge that came in 75, thereabouts, really changed the civil service. Honest civil servants who were dedicated to providing the best suddenly realized that they didn't have made, they didn't make provisions for whatever it was necessary. Civil servants were moved, they were sacked, and insecurity came into the system. The civil servants that were there changed, and they discovered that they had to provide for themselves. So the security was no longer there.
The way out remains a system that is apolitical and absolved of all forms of favoritism, where education takes preeminence.
The workshops, the civil service training and all that has gone. How many civil servants ever received any training after they've been recruited? The mentoring in the civil service has disappeared. It is no longer there. You cannot discipline another civil servant because he knows somebody higher than all of you. A permanent secretary has to be careful with an assistant director who is all probably connected to somebody elsewhere. And if I go to area of education, where I was principal of schools. The permanent secretary decides amongst the best. Today, it's difficult to become a principal of a federal government college if you do not know anyone. If education is healthy, every other arm will be healthy. And if we take politics out of the civil service, if we take godfatherism out of the civil service, the civil service will be able to deliver.
As Nigeria advances in her journey as a nation, there is need for concrete reforms that will propel a more responsive civil service that epitomizes excellence, free of corruption, and capable of driving Nigeria to an enviable height of development among the Committee of Nations.
All right, that was a nice one from Shikola. And while that was going on, you said the man you know very well, you've interacted with him, and you actually liked his points.
Yeah.
But then that tells me that you share a lot with him in terms of ideology.
Thank you. That's true.
You know, picking from your base, what do you think we can do to revamp, to recheck the civil service? How, I don't know, I don't want to go right to where we got it wrong.
Yeah.
I want to know a way out. How do we bring sanity, commitment to people? I want to walk into an office and see people seated by 9. And they're not sitting to gossip, but they're sitting to work.
I think part of the, I don't want to go to the problems, what is wrong, as you said, but you know, every organization is guided by a code of ethics and conduct. And I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I'm sure many of us as a people, even in the civil service, don't even have idea about the code of conduct. Many people just take up appointment letter, they will write all the provisions, how you are expected to do. Nobody internalize it. The issue that comes to bear that are basic, they are no more than 5, that we must watch as an organization, which the civil service is well established and reckoned with. The question number 1 is integrity. Number 2, competence. Number 3, professionalism. Number 4, confidentiality. And number 5, you talk about enforcement. That is, everybody that comes into the organization as an employee and those third parties must observe this code of ethics in an attempt to make sure that whatever the rules are well followed, and that if you look at the original or the traditional people who ran Nigerian civil service, they were men of integrity. They would not compromise. Their competence and skills in delivery was not in doubt. You can see it from their eloquence. That is one of the things that Mr. Sylvester Onoja represents in his career.
There was there was something I read of. They said adulthood is a scam. That it was somebody who was saying, my parents never told me the truth. Adulthood is a scam. And I tried to investigate the source of that particular saying. The lady told me that she grew up well founded, and she saw a lot of things going wrong, and she said when she's an adult she's going to help correct it. But getting into position, she wants to punish somebody, and they tell her, no, do you know who I am? Do you know who is backing him or her? And then she's like, I'm an adult, I can take decisions, I can do this and do that. She found her hands were constantly being twisted, which why she decided to say that adulthood is a scam. You really are not in control, but we need to hold that control back. How do we, as an individual, just like the young lady I told you about, decide, okay, we need to do the right thing and hold on to it without being twisted? How can we achieve that?
There's nothing that is not achievable as far as there is sincerity, and that I'm very concerned that if we continue to park the bus or continue to get involved in playing game, we're going to miss it. First of all, if we have to get it right, we must depart and take the path of responsible citizenship. And then in leadership position, leadership is a huge responsibility, and where there are conflicts of interest, you should be able to declare it and either step aside and be free from your conscience should be free. But this leadership, adulthood as a scam, is depending on individuals, and we can get it back by insisting that whatever is stated as our regulation or laws must be obeyed, and sanctions, as one of the commentators said earlier, should be universally applied. There should be no sacred cows, and there should be no any scapegoat. Whoever is guilty is guilty. It is left for the law enforcement to accept plea for leniency if is acceptable by law, if there are provisions. But I think it's not that the laws are not there. The enforcement challenges are also there. The constraint because of our connectivity. But we must engender responsibility in our conduct, in our attention to details.
All right, let's react to some of the things viewers are sending in. One says here that he's writing in from Benue. John from Benue says, my take on this subject is that the rule of law mechanism in Nigeria is faulty and therefore responsible for all manners of things that we are seeing today. God bless you all. Now, taking off from what he said, Nigeria, I have often heard, has one of the most beautiful laws. It's just enforcement. Is that your take as well?
Yeah, I think I subscribe to what he's saying, and many of us are aware that it's not even policy issue that we're grappling with. We have some of the best heads in this country, and that when you take any sector in our development, we have the best people around. But when it comes to implementation and enforcement, that is where you begin to wonder whether if it is the same people that promulgate or come up with these beautiful things. So we must of necessity be courageous and take it from like that our leadership training in Harvard that says leadership in 21st century, chaos, conflict, and courage. So you must that we call it triple C. So I think leadership conundrum should be addressed where we have even training for not only civil servants but every sector of our economy should imbibe that spirit of addressing our leadership deficit in 21st century, taking cognizance of the issues that have to do with courage and character in the discharge of our leadership responsibility. So I will call a spade a spade. And when there is a gap, we should be ready to fill it without fear of contradiction.
All right, we'll take more reactions from the audience. One says, yes, you're a lecturer. I wanted to look at the situation where students fail exam but the school started to mandate lecturers to make sure that most of the students pass their exams. I don't know what it means here.
I don't
Whether
think.
to award marks to people.
No, I don't think it is possible because we in the university system where I'm very very conversant and familiar with terrain, is that there is a process. You start from the individual lecturer teaching students. We have assessment process, continuous assessment, which is like a bonus. I call it bonus for the students because they give you assignment, you do it well, you earn good marks. You also participate in tests again, you do well. So you have some bonus ahead of your exams. So when the exam comes, you are just looking for something to be better grades to enhance your cumulative grade point average. So I don't think that's a problem. So you now from there submit your marks to the department where there will be a round table of examiners to look at all after the external examiner must have had his own input from another university to see that all the grades are accurate. You have been, so the internal examination body will look at it again before you take it to the faculty. Then the faculty again will review it again before you go to the Senate. So I think the process is so long that one person will just go and give somebody mark. I don't think it is true.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for coming on. As always, you come in and we learn one or two more things. And we say when you go back to Ibadan, safe trip.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Professor Mohammed Yahaya Kuta. He is a professor of agricultural extension and development communication, also an expert in citizens engagement, and he has also engaged us today. He was also the SSG in Niger State. And with that, we take a break. When we come back, the show continues. We have more for you. There's also another guest standing by. I'd like to quickly introduce my guest, Ambassador Joe Keshi, and I know you retired as a permanent secretary, to different places, and you have also been to different countries. First of all, nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And there was something that they said last, that a certain governor, abused certain persons in the airport for certain things. I don't know, you having moved in and out of the country as much as you've done, what was your experience?
Well, in a number of countries, particularly in the advanced countries, the values that hold society together are some of the topmost things that the society, care about, like respect for the rule of law, respect for institutions, respect for the people themselves. Unfortunately, what you find in this country is that, with particular reference to the case of the governor, that is the fact that our leaders in this country think that they are above the law, and that they can do whatever they want to do. As a result, citizens too have copied such behavior. So when you hear everybody saying, "Do you know who I am?" or that I can, for example, you are told you can't pass here with your security, and both the governor or the leaders and everybody fights to break that law to say no, it's not allowed, we will pass. Some of these, look, we focus in this country on the more fundamental issues. Yes, economy, education, the rest of it. But the values, the important ingredients, the values that underpin the success of some of these things, seems to be disappearing, or we simply have lost them. And until we can bring back some of these values, particularly with respect to your question, to the respect for the people, respect for the rule of law, respect for order and behavior, we'll probably just be where we are from day to day, and all the time we complain, you review this. I was listening to your last conversation, which I must say was very good. and really tells you the mistakes we've made over the last couple of years and why we are where we are today.
True. You know, you talked about respect for orderliness, and my mind quickly went back to the burial of Queen Elizabeth, you know, on the 19th. You know, we watched it. I was, if I want to use the word, spellbound, not just by the respect given to her, but the conduct of the conduct of the people. As I saw it, I remember this guy, David Beckham or something. He came in and they actually wanted to give him preference. He said no, he was going to stand and do the needful. I kept wondering and trying to compare scenario if that was happening in Nigeria, you know.
Oh, it would be chaotic. If it was happening in Nigeria, it would be chaotic. Ordinary organization of events will make it extremely chaotic in this country. Very, very chaotic. Because it goes to the behavior of the leaders. And when the last speaker spoke of leadership, I was very happy to hear that, because I keep telling everybody who cares to listen in this country. Our problem has less to do with religion, with the economy. It all boils down to leadership behavior. It boils down to leadership recruitment process, and the kind of thing. And the way even today the leaders continue to behave does not give so much, hope for the future. I watched some of the, spokespersons of political party leaders. The way they behave on television doesn't give you comfort that they even know what they are saying. And now you begin to question, why did the leaders appoint such characters as their spokesperson? So that takes me back to what you saw, the spectacular display of British culture, pageantry, history. It's all about leadership. It's all about discipline. It's all about organizational capacity. But above all, it's all about respect for the people and for the rule of law. Look, where do you want to start? But let me just simply say that I wish and pray that our security chiefs in this country would occasionally gather their people together and say to them, watch the video of the Queen's burial. Definitely. And you will see the behavior of security officers. They were all over the place. They were in the church, but they didn't misbehave. Did you see anybody in this country? Everybody will be running around the one leader or the other, creating massive chaos. Mm-hmm. And not to talk of the precision of some of the events. And that's also part of the respect for the rule of law, the respect for discipline, the respect for the people, because you have planned the event in such a way that you reduce minimal discomfort to those who will be using the, So, for example, the Queen's body was supposed to leave Scotland, Balmoral Palace. It left at time A, that it was stated that it would leave. Definitely. It arrived at the airport at time B, that it was stated to arrive. The flight taking the Queen's body to London left exactly the time it was to leave. Arrived London exactly the time it was supposed to arrive. Got to Buckingham Palace exactly the time, with all the traffic in London. What does that tell you? Military precision in planning.
When you talk about planning, I understand that. I was actually telling somebody that I see a lot of organization, and well executed within that ceremony. And I was meant to understand that the planning had taken a longer time than even before she died. Nigerians, we find it difficult to plan. That's one.
That's an understatement.
Nigerians, especially people that are said to be high and mighty, we find it difficult to keep to time. I must say congratulations and acknowledge the fact that we gave you time, and on the dot of it you were here. You've been here for a while, so I wish everybody will keep up with that character. But why is it that we find it difficult to keep to time? Even if it's for party or one, somebody invited me for a birthday party for 3 o'clock. I was there at 3 o'clock. I sat there all through till 4 o'clock. I took pictures and left. But at 3 o'clock, the caterers, everybody was still setting up. And the person was like, don't you know 3 o'clock actually means 6 or 7? Are you freaking crazy? And he's not an ordinary citizen. What is our problem with
Well, as I said, it goes back to a long time when we started observing African time. And so, again, it goes to what I spoke about, that people, over time, we've come to disrespect one another. So you hardly don't pay attention to time anymore. In any case, there's this, a sociological study years ago, and a book about African connection to time, and African ability or recognition of time. It was argued that because our ancestors for many years lived on reading the moon and the sun to determine so that has created problems for the rest of the generation. But look, you've raised an important point. But for me, sometimes, this time is important for so many reasons. But sometimes it's not just the time that leaves me, upset or worried. It's the fact that, number one, particularly for major events, the big boys and the big guns leaders, number one, they come late to almost all events. And instead of quietly sitting down to where that has been allocated to them, they don't do that. They walk in with their litany of security aides and friends and hanger-ons. Then the next thing they do, they start greeting, they start hugging, they start talking, having a conversation. Meanwhile, the MC of the speaker that has started the lecture or that has started the event is just left there, nobody listening anymore. And it's not one, it's not two, it's not three. They just come in those, but deliberately late. It boils down to their understanding of the connection. As far as leaders in this country are concerned, they simply don't realize that it is disrespectful to the... In any case, they don't even care about the people, come to think about it.
Definitely.
So they just believe that if you are invited to an event, no matter who invites you to that event, you stay at home, your protocol officer is there, then you start calling, have they started? Tell me when they start. Why don't you come? Because the main reason why the event is starting late was that they were waiting for you folks to arrive. And then you arrive and you disrespectfully disturb the whole event. Look, it has become the pattern of leaders, executives, top guys in the private. They all arrive late to events.
I think it won't be our tradition because it's never been African time from.
Oh, by the way, you will notice that 90% of the time, thank God for that, people don't go late to church. They don't go late to mosque.
Yeah, because they have respect for God.
Precisely. So why don't you have respect for the people?
Same thing to the secular world, because all of that is still God's creation. I want to move on a little bit. What is the problem of Nigerians? What is our problem? I'm not being specific with paying tax.
No, I don't think that Nigerians have any difficulty in paying tax. Two things have happened over the, couple of years, particularly when we found oil, and government thought that it could finance everything, and so we were given everything almost relatively free, and nobody paid attention to putting in place a very good tax structure. Now that we are in some financial crisis, efforts are being made to do that. But this is coming at the time in which Nigerians are relatively very poor. And the question is, who do you tax and who would you not tax? The fact remains that everybody has to pay tax. It depends on how it is graduated, number one. Number two, the advantage of paying tax, if people are if people are enlightened about taxation, is that if you pay tax to government, you also have the right to challenge that government to indicate or to demonstrate to you what it is doing with your tax.
Are you very sincere with that? Because a certain tax master on this same seat told me that it's none of my business as a taxpayer to ask the question.
No. With all due respect, not only is he stupid and ignorant, whoever that is, I'm sorry to use that word, the truth of the matter is that once you pay tax, you have the right to question the government, what he has done with your contribution to, But the first thing we need to do, when I hear people talk of expanding the tax net, it is fair enough. If you earn, you pay. It's as simple as that. But it is the structure, the structure to bring everybody into the tax net that we haven't, completed. It's been done gradually. The other thing is that there's also the debate. For example, the lady selling akara on the road. What kind of taxation do you? But if she has been made to realize from the beginning that as long as you are in business, no matter the level of business, and this is the amount you will pay over time. Look, no matter how little it is, when all these are built into the tax structure, but rather what is being done now is that certain people are targeted. And everybody, the tax authority is saying that just targeting a number of people, they call them high earners or whatever they call them, and the rest is a bit. No, it should be broad to cover everybody. And there are other things that we are, for now, we are not taxing enough. Properties. We're not taxing properties enough.
When you talk about property, I quickly want to share certain experiences of people, including perhaps my own,
we paid ground rent.
There's a whole lot. I'm not even going to the tenement rates.
Matching
here in Lagos, when you go to buy a pineapple, you pay, what do they call it? Matching. Have you ground? Have you said?
I even hear that when even parking your car in your own compound that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so let's go to Jos and get to find out the lawlessness of land agents. When we come back, you expand more on that.
Undertakes all aspects of property brokerage, which includes the sales, purchases and leasing of commercial and residential properties across boards. Some go as far as ensuring that favorable financial and legal terms are obtained from the clients and can give immediate advice on marketing, pricing and valuations as the case may be.
Landowners, they are greedy and they are not sincere to themselves. You see, in real estate business, if you really want to excel, you must be straightforward, very, very straightforward. We like to investigate before we take any client to the property that he was going to buy.
Most property in that manner that are usually sold to multiple buyers, they don't have title. Most of them, they are empty land, probably from customary owners and all of that.
Sometimes when they sell the land, and maybe out of the land they don't have any more, so we still go back to where you have already sold, sell it again.
When there's a need that requires one selling part of his or her property, the buyer and seller explore the logistical, legal and financial consideration of selling a piece of property But even at that, there are landowners and agents that dubiously sell land to multiple buyers fraudulently.
The law as it is in Nigeria does not in any way permit the multiple sale of a particular land. Any attempt in selling one portion of land to different persons, it's actually a fraudulent activity which is also penalized as far as the criminal law system of the country is concerned, whether the criminal code, the penal code law of each of the states, it's concerned, and at the national level. For any sound land transaction, a professional should be gotten, probably a property lawyer or a valuer, an estate valuer, who will now conduct search at various particular places. The essence of the search is to ascertain the soundness of what the title, which is to say there's no encumbrance in terms of maybe disputation on the land.
There's been a decadence or of breakdown in our morals and values in the society. And many factors can be attributed to this. First and foremost, for me, I think that roles that ought to be maintained by members of the society are no longer being done by the stakeholders of the society. And by this, I mean parents. Parents are no longer role models to their children also in the society, because they really lack time to really sit down and inculcate the right values and morals into children now. People want to get rich at all costs, and then they go into becoming quite greedy. And this really affects the way in which they go in accumulating wealth.
In the past, the sales of plots and properties to potential buyers were not as complicated as they are today.
Land before is on the trust, and that time when you came to buy land, they will carry a stone, like where forefathers, they will stone where the stone landed, that's where they will give you.
Inasmuch as we all want to buy land and other properties, it is advisable to go through the proper channel to avoid falling into the hands of wrong agents.
I think I like the description of you take a stone and stone, and then that's what you get. I wish it's still applicable. I'll quickly go with my small chicken money. I'll go and ask them to throw, and I'll make sure I get somebody who is very tall with a long hand, so I get plenty of land. But the last the statement there was we being careful in buying is very sensitive. But a lot of Nigerians in Abuja, most especially, are confused as to the first step towards acquisition of land. Could you help us with that?
I think the first acquisition is to apply to the SCDA. I think that's what it's called. The problem there, and I think why this problem exists in Abuja as against what's going on in Lagos and elsewhere, is the fact that SCDA, itself takes such a long time in approving your application. Mm-hmm. Look, there are some applications in that place. They are not just only about 1 year old. They are probably about, some might be as old as 20 years old.
Wow.
Believe it or not. Rather than treat this thing officially, somebody has applied. There are lands all over the place. You don't respond to the applications. But political office holders and commercial developers and everybody, they get the applications processed very quickly. And then people turn around to want to go and buy from them, and that's where you begin to experience a lot of problems. In other places is the problem of Harmonile, the sons of landowners, who sell to multiple buyers. And as the gentleman said, it's against the law. But then you go to a place like Lagos, the law actually, they have a way of liaising with the land offices to defend the right that it is their land. Yes, it is your land, but your father or somebody has sold it to A. You are now reselling it to B, and by the time all this is finished, somebody else will resell it to C. So these are some of the problems that we need to find a way to harmonize in a way that it doesn't really look. People have lost, including yours sincerely, in a place like Lagos, have lost money. because you buy from one, the next day you go to your land, somebody else is there, and it happens a lot in this Abuja, even among the big guys themselves.
Wow. Anyway, we pray that one day we'll get it right and law and order will, reign for us to get it right. Before we go, I'd like to, get your advice to all of us, teaming populars, because I know that in a little while the campaign will be kickstarting. What do you propose should be our conduct to ensure that we maintain law and order, both the people who are seeking positions and their supporters?
Well, very good question. My appeal to, number one, the candidates, particularly the presidential candidates and gubernatorial candidates. For goodness sake, stick to the issues. Sell yourself. Tell people who you are and what you want to do. Character matters. So tell the people. Look, when you watch some of these, campaigns abroad, particularly in the United States, the first thing a candidate does all the time is to introduce himself and who he is. So you don't need to begin to, get surrogates to say something useless or that didn't happen just because you want to pull down a candidate. No. For goodness sake, you and your supporters, sell your candidates. Sell yourself. That is one. Number two, to the voters, you have the chance to make history. You cannot stay at home, number one, and not vote and then turn around to complain. You cannot make a wrong choice and turn around to complain. You now have 3, 4, 5, 17 candidates. 3 or 4 are the leading candidates. Go and look at it. Go and examine each and every one of them. Because at the end of the day, if you make another mistake, as has been made, successfully in every election, by voting out of emotion, by thinking that the man from my village would do better, go and look at Shagari's village, Jonathan's village, Obasanjo's village, Babangida's village, and all these places. They are not better than mine that has not produced a president. But the most important thing is, who can you trust? Who has the character that we can project? Don't come and be arguing, telling me that, yes, the man I'm supporting is a thief, and your man is a thief, but my thief is better than your thief. No. Let's focus on looking at everybody across board and make that decision. For the first time in this country, I appeal to Nigerians, take a risk and vote who you think will lead you to the promised land.
All right, definitely. We will take that risk and ensure that we bring in the right persons. Nigerians are, they know better now, if you ask me.
I sincerely hope so. I sincerely hope so.
I think they know better. And I must say thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been, as usual, very enlightening and educating, especially your punchline, this last one, because we'll take it to the bank and ensure that we do the right thing. We're speaking with a renowned technocrat. He is Ambassador Joe Keshi OON. And if you haven't learned anything, learn to be your person within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. We are a populous nation, giant of Africa, and as giants, we must lead by the example, obeying law and order. I see lots of messages here. We'll be taking them tomorrow, but for now, let's go and do what we need to do as good citizens. I'll be with you again tomorrow.